Learn winning best ball strategies and find out which players you need to win. This is the Bettor Sports Best Ball Invitational Draft on Fantasy Alarm and Bettor Sports Network. Here are your hosts, Britt Flinn and Andrew Cooper.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's here. We're live. I'm Andrew Cooper with my co-host, Britt Flinn, for what is very likely to be the biggest event in all of fantasy football in May, the Bettor Sports Fantasy Football Best Ball Invitational. This is such a big draft with such heavy hitters that I'm not even allowed in it. Britt's not even allowed in it. Britt, how you feeling today? How does that make you feel?
I'm great. You know, these people are such big names in the industry. I'm just happy to be here and to be a part of it and very happy to host. So,
it's nothing but monsters. It's nothing but monsters in this one. We're going to learn a lot. We're going to steal their techniques. We're going to watch them snipe each other. It's going to be a good time, Brett. It's going to be a good time. For folks out there, we're going to be drafting on Underdog today. If you are not signed up for Underdog, use promo code Fantasy Alarm. They'll match up to 100% of your deposit, $100. You deposit 20, they match 20. Deposit 100, they match 100. Make sure you get in there so you can draft with us when we do these moving forward. Britt, with these guys today, I'm not sure who's favored. Howard Bender. We'll go through some of the names, but it's going to be a good one today.
Yeah, I'm really interested in seeing everybody's strategies, and we'll know more once the draft position is solidified and finalized. But we've seen an Underdog so far that the quarterbacks have been going very early. Typically, these analysts don't like to take quarterbacks early. So I kind of want to see how far they fall, how they choose to do their stacks, whether they choose to go 0 RB, hero RB, anchor. There's so many different ways that you can do this. And I'm really excited to see and learn something and put it to the test for my own drafts.
I'm fired up here. We're going to have a draft order shortly. We're finalizing that now. Before we get into that, why don't we go through some of these participants and let everyone know who we're dealing with today. So, I'll go through, give you each one. Oh, it looks like we got the board coming up here. We've got Sam Choudry from Fade the Noise. We have,
sorry,
yeah,
Coop.
go ahead.
Nope. Then we've got John and Pimba from Fantasy Alarm and Bettor Sports.
We have Jim Coventry of RotoWire.
We've got Josh Larkey of the 33rd team.
We have Alex Dunlap of Roster Watch.
We've got Nick Bretwish from Win Daily and the Bettor Golf Podcast.
We have the former Fantasy Alarm, now Sports Illustrated, Jen Piacenti.
We've got Brad Thomas from NBC Sports Edge.
We have Scott Engel from The Game Day.
Then we've got Alfredo Brown from Football Guys.
Of course, we have our own Howard Bender of Fantasy Alarm.
And to cap us off, we have the Bettor boss himself, Matt Deutsch from Bettor Sports Network.
Absolutely. Those out there that are kind of seeing this on Twitter and if you want to join us, get involved in the conversation, there's two ways today. Go on YouTube to the Fantasy Alarm YouTube channel. You can hop in the chat there, or my preferred way, download the Bettor Sports app. You can get in there, smash the fun button, call in, give your takes. We're here for all of it. So you have that capability. Make sure Apple, Google Play Store, download the Bettor Sports app, Bettor. So let's pull up that draft board when we get a chance once we get the draft order going. Pretty excited to get this one kicked off. What we did here is typically it's a 30-second clock for a draft like this. It's going to take an hour or so, but since we have the experts on hand, we're going to have them come on, talk about the picks. We are doing a bit of a longer clock, but we'll be able to push it along, get this done within an hour or two for you folks. So stick with us here. It's going to be a good one. I'll tell you what, Brett, one trend that I've been seeing this year more than ever, because, we always talk about, it's a 0 RB year, or now it's a hero RB year because Alvin Kamara scored 6 touchdowns championship week. This year, it truly is looking like a 0 RB year. When you look at how many wide receivers come off the board in the first few rounds compared to running backs, it's staggering. The ADP alone suggests that only 12 running backs come off the board in the first 3 rounds, whereas
we may have lost Coop. I think I'm going to finish up his thought for him. We typically see a lot of the running backs go off, but since everybody in the NFL has switched more to a committee approach, that has kind of changed and that has switched out. We're seeing people like Derrick Henry fall into the 3rd round. We're seeing Jonathan Taylor fall into the 3rd round. It's kind of nuts how fast these guys are going off the board. So it looks like we've got.
Hey, I'm here.
Oh, yes, Bender. Hi.
What's up, Britt Flinn?
I'm so glad to have you. I thought
Right? Get rid of Coop. Come on.
Started feeling a little crazy for a second. So I couldn't see the draft board. What spot are you picking from?
You know, and I'm going to have to, I got a little beef with Underdog. I love him to death, but man, why am I always picking somewhere between 8 and 10? I'm in 10th. I'm in 8th today. Literally just took AJ Brown off the board. Only because whoever Vice Golf 22 is, they stole my Bijan Robinson.
That Bijan has been going so early, and it seems like he's crept up there. I think he was going around 8 or 9 when the draft first happened, and now he's crept up into that 4 or 5 spot. People are very high on Bijan. How do you feel about him going forward in Atlanta's offense?
I mean, listen, I wish that I loved anything as much as Arthur Smith loves to run the football. And I mean, listen, we knew it. I had a bet in there for Atlanta to take Bijan Robinson at number 8 in the NFL draft. That came to fruition because as much as I love Tyler Algier, he's not a great pass catcher. He's not a very versatile back. He can be a banger in short yardage and he can take it between the tackles, but Bijan does everything. And, I really genuinely believe that Arthur Smith has his guy. And we're seeing easily 300 plus touches from Bijan.
And then you've got that week 17 game, which everybody loves to correlate between Chicago and Atlanta in Chicago, where it's just going to be super run heavy when it comes down to your championship week. So then you've got that extra little cherry on top.
Well, I think it might be week 8 that Tennessee and Atlanta play each other in Tennessee, I believe, which should be very nice to see Arthur Smith come strutting in like he's, Vince McMahon going down to the ring, and he's got Bijan by his side, and the two of them strut into Tennessee. That one's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at that offense, they've got some mean blockers there. They were able to bring back Chris Lindstrom. They were able to bring back McGeary. They have, I mean, if you just think about Kyle Pitts at 6'6", Drake London at 6'4", they brought back the fullback. That team is going to be a punch you in the mouth football team, no question.
So, Howard, you took Jalen Hurts here. We said in the beginning that we thought that might not hold up as well in this draft, but now you've got your super stack with AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts. Do you think you're going to try to go after, with the risk of stealing your secrets, do you want a super stack with another player off of that team, or are you content with those 2 heavy hitters?
I'm seriously getting, I've got, I'm like 30 best ball drafts into the NFL season already. And I've yet to get like that strong super stack that I've wanted. And, and because listen, if I didn't take Jalen Hurts there, by the time it comes back around to me, I mean, you guys have seen it, the ADP for quarterbacks right now. And I mean, even the top tier, Hurts, Mahomes, Josh Allen, you still see, a number of them coming off the board. Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields, Joe Burrow, they're all coming off the board fairly early. So I think that if you want that stack in best ball, you're going to have to act quickly to make that happen. So, I mean, we'll see what happens between, whether Devonta Smith comes back to me, or maybe I can wait a little bit and take some Dallas Goedert. Maybe that's in the cards for me. I don't know yet. We're going to have to just wait and see. But for right now, I mean, why not lock it down with Hurts and Brown?
Yeah, Howard, I think that's exactly why we're seeing the quarterbacks go so early this year, is people are really recognizing the correlation of these stacks. And for once, we actually have the mobile quarterbacks in a lot of places paired up with good pass catchers. So once you take AJ Brown, your mind immediately says, I need to take Jalen Hurts. And that's exactly what you did here. And same goes for when you look at the Devonta Smith drafter, the Jamar Chase and T. Higgins drafter. Now that's 2 guys that are fighting over Joe Burrow. It's pushing all these guys up. That's what happens when you have a year like last year, where in the top 20 wide receivers, 5 teams had 2 wide receivers in that range, right? Once you get one of those wide receivers, now you're ready to pull the trigger at any moment. It's really moving them up. So you got to be wary of that.
So let's run down this first round real quick, since we're moving pretty quickly. I think you guys all know what you'd like. First off the board, Justin Jefferson, not really a surprise there. Going pretty consistently next with Jamar Chase. Then Christian McCaffrey off at third, all pretty much the status quo. Then we've got Tyreek Hill jumping up there, which is a little different from what I've seen. Travis Kelce at 5, and then Bijan at 6. Coop, you want to break down the second half of the first?
Yeah. So after Bijan, you have Cooper Kupp, AJ Brown, Stephon Diggs, CD Lamb, Austin Eckler, Devonte Adams. I'm pretty used to seeing this order. These guys, the order changes up. The one guy I want to ask you about, Howard, is Cooper Kupp, because we all know what he's capable of. He's capable of being the best wide receiver all time in fantasy football, because I've seen it, right? But on the flip side, you've got Matt Stafford, who's a bit of a mystery box right now with the arm injuries, the Rams not really looking like the powerhouse they once were. Where are you willing to personally take Cooper Kupp? If you had to say, your rank for him in that first round.
I mean, listen, I'm fine with Cooper Kupp at the back end. I mean, like you said, I mean, he is the number one target there in the Rams offense. No, they don't have the fringe receivers to help draw as much coverage away as you want. But I mean, how many times have we sat there watching Cooper Kupp being like, I don't understand how this guy consistently gets as open as he does. So, if you're looking in the, if you're looking for a premium wide receiver, somebody who's going to see mad targets, yeah, you're running a little bit of a risk because of the situation with Matthew Stafford. But overall, I still think that Sean McVay's got everything just drawn up with Cooper Kupp in mind. So back end first round, I'm good with that.
They honestly made me look stupid that year, because I sat there and I said, you can't just win just throwing it to one guy over and over and over and over. But teams are going to take that away. Well, they kind of did that, right? They just right through Cooper Kupp, right through every team, through the Super Bowl, big parade. So I guess you can't just throw it to one guy all day long.
Unstoppable.
I think you can. Are we allowed to use profanity on this broadcast? Can I maybe give somebody the bird, because our illustrious friend Matthew Deutsch just ruined my stack by taking Devonta Smith. Matt, everybody was going to leave Devonta Smith for me. I don't know why you got to be like that.
Hey, this is Bettor Sports Network. We're allowed to do whatever we want here. You can talk trash all you want. We already got Jordan Vanek in here talking trash to his boss. A bunch of amazing people and Josh Larkey drafting right now. So yeah, we got people trickling into the chat. You're allowed to talk trash. You're allowed to flip the bird. And Matt Deutsch is a guy that he's known for this, man. He sniped me on Chigakonkwo in the first one we did this year, 30 picks above ADP. And it's still, in my opinion, a good pick where he took him. So he's a shark out here. Every one of these guys is sharp. So it's why we put this together, so that we can get a real idea of how these drafts go when you're playing with your friends who are also good at this, right? Because that's what your hometown league is. It's playing with people who know what they're doing for the most part, and they're wild cards, and they're trying to push your buttons, right, Britt?
Agreed. And definitely we've seen it. I mean, these drafts specifically, we all know everybody's favorite players. Kevin Tompkins just took Treylon Burks from me in a startup dynasty league, because he knows my love for Treylon Burks. You just never know who is going to push your buttons. But yeah, this draft is moving a little bit. I think that we are going to bring in Jim Coventry of RotoWire next. Hi, Jim.
Speaking of one of the nice guys, who he's one of the nicest guys, and he'll still in one of these drafts rip your throat out. That's the thing. It's nice to your face, but hey, he's plays to win. So Jim, how you doing, bud?
Oh, I'm doing well. Excited to be a part of this. I always love to draft with great minds and have great people hosting shows. So yeah, this is a blast.
Yeah. Well, hey, thanks for joining us, man. Why don't you walk us through your first couple picks here? Your first couple. Are you through 2 or 3? What's your username on here?
I'm MVP 1986. I'm on the turn 12 pick first round. And so basically at that point, a lot of my drafts, I am coming out early with 2 receivers. But when we got to the end of the first round, it was just 2 very clear players who were left. It was Devonte Adams, and then the receivers after that I didn't think were worthy of turn picks. And then Jonathan Taylor was sitting there. And Jonathan Taylor, I really love his situation, because last year the offensive line underperformed a bit in the run game. They were terrible against the pass, blocking for the pass, but the run blocking was okay. But here's what happens now. They have legitimately 5 tight ends on their roster, and they bring in Anthony Richardson. So this tells me a mobile quarterback, 2 and 3 tight end sets, and Jonathan Taylor running the football a lot. This could be a banner season for him.
Yeah, that
Now, Jim,
RPO. Oh, sorry, Brett, go ahead.
I was going to go back to Devonte Adams with all of this news that's come out this week about, his disdain or just lack of happiness with the front office there in Vegas. Do you feel that he could fall in drafts, or do you think he's still going to put up a wide receiver one season?
You know what? A good stud wide receiver has to be a diva. I really don't think there are very, very few, even Jerry Rice behind the scenes. When you saw him on camera, you didn't think so? Man, Jerry Rice was getting his way, right? No difference with Devonte Adams. When he had Aaron Rodgers, he didn't have to complain because Aaron Rodgers was going to get him the ball 180 times a season, right? But he wants some input on the offense. He wants to make sure that he is the central focal point of things. He's going to get his way because how do you win? You get Devonte Adams the football. And it's not like Jacoby Myers is a threat, Hunter Renfrow is a threat. So realistically, not much to worry about.
Yeah, he's and the beautiful thing is he's doing it in advance of the season. We don't even have to wait. He's putting the squeaky wheel, gets the grease in motion right now. And his words, it sounds like he thinks that he can turn Jimmy G into Aaron Rodgers as long as the play calling is in his favor. So I'm loving that. Jim, you're on the clock right now at the turn here. So why don't you walk us through what you just did here, and then we'll bounce you out and bring the next guy on.
Yeah, so at the 3-4 tournament, again, I started out with Jonathan Taylor at running back, and I started with Devonte Adams at receiver. The receiver board here, the top names on my board right now are Amari Cooper, DJ Moore, Chris Godwin. Not biting there, not at this point of the draft. Running back, Najee Harris, you know what? After that foot injury settled down in the second half of last season, the second half numbers were really good. And they continue to invest in their offensive line. And even if they get just a little bit of a jump forward from Kenny Pickett, he is going to be in line for another serious workload. And he's not the greatest running back in the world, but we know this. Volume is king in fantasy football. And then we talked about this. You talked about this with Howard. The way the quarterbacks are going to fly off the board at this point, being at the turn and now going to be a bunch of picks line up again. Yeah, just give me Joe Burrow, and I see Justin Herbert went right afterwards. And now the drop off in quarterbacks is there. I don't have to worry about it.
I love it. I love it. And you had mentioned that you do skew wide receiver heavy. Looking at that third round coming in here, we saw T. Higgins, DK Metcalf, Jalen Waddle. If you could have had one of those guys slide to you, which would have been the one that you would have preferred? Like, who would you have wanted to grab out of that tier?
At that point, it would have been Jalen Waddle. And I just want to add one thing based on all these good questions. This is where the draft, you can't go in with a set plan. If you go into a set plan, like I'm getting 2 receivers, and that's your philosophy, you miss out. This draft flow is a little different. This is the first time I've had 2 running backs this early, and that's fine. That's the way this draft has dictated, but we have to be pliable. And when I do my draft board, it's 4 positional boards. I won't do like a top 150 because I want to look at that board and how the players are dropping off at the positions. And I want to see like where my line of delineation on players at. And that really navigates me when the draft takes a turn that is very unexpected.
Yep. You have to be like water out here, right, Brett?
Absolutely. That's such great advice, as always. Drafting for value and the best player on the board rather than reaching for other players is one of the most important things you can do. Jim, great advice, as always. Let everybody watching know where they can find you and what you've got working on coming up next.
Yes, you can find me at Jim Coventry NFL on pretty much all the socials. I don't dance, but I do TikToks almost every day. You don't want me dancing. I'll football advice, no problem. On Twitter, when we get closer to July, it'll be a thread a day pretty much the rest of the way through. On anything to do with RotoWire, can set you up with a free trial on RotoWire. Go to rotowire.com/Jim. No credit card, get you set up there. And pretty soon, starting July, be on SiriusXM Saturdays and Sundays on the Fantasy Sports Channel.
Jim, great stuff as always. Thank you so much for joining us.
Jim, don't tell the rest of the guys in this draft, but you're my favorite.
Nice. I'll listen to hear you say it to the next 11, but thanks, Coop.
I would never, Jim. You're the number one. You're my number one, buddy. Thanks for coming on.
Appreciate you guys. Bye.
Take it easy.
Yeah. And in addition to this Best Ball Invitational that we're doing right here, right now on Bettor Sports Network, We're also doing a ton of best balls over at fantasyalarm.com. You can sign up for those in the Discord, but to be in the Discord, you need to be a member of our All Pro. You can get the All Pro access to Fantasy Alarm and unlock every single feature. I'm talking all the fantasy football content, betting content, NASCAR, baseball, NBA. There's an award-winning DFS playbook covering 10 different sports. You can get this for a limited time, all for 50% off your first 6 months when you use promo code ALARM50. That's promo code ALARM50 at fantasyalarm.com. So sign up and get started with a free trial today and use promo code ALARM50 for 50% off your first 6 months.
You know, Brett, I love promo code ALARM50, but one I like even better that does the same thing, 50% off for next 6 months, promo code COOP, COOP. Plus, it makes me look good for the bosses. So why don't you slide that promo code COOP in there? All right.
You know, it all gets you the same thing. If you want to,
It does.
be friends with Coop, then use his promo code.
That's right.
It works
That's
the
right.
same. Same
We'll check
deal.
it out. We'll check it out later this month. 0 promo code Coops. Nobody wants to be friends, but that's all right. I'm here to host the big dogs. That's who everyone came to see. We got a lot of good folks to get to here. I want to ask you, Britt, coming off the board so far, only 3 tight ends through the first 4 rounds. Last year, we saw basically if you wanted a couple guys, if you wanted Mark Andrews, forget the tight ends. We got a star on the stage here. One of my very favorites, even though she left our Fantasy Alarm to go to the legendary Sports Illustrated. Jen, how are you doing? Always great to see you.
I am so good, guys. Thank you for inviting me. I do have to say, though, Coop, I have a slight bone to pick with you.
Go on.
How do you not know how to say my name?
Did I said it wrong?
How do
in the
you not
intro?
know this? Jen
Stop it.
Piacenti? Coop.
Is that what I said?
It's okay. I know you know who I am.
sorry, Angel. I am. It's hot in here. We're all going crazy with this draft, so I apologize. All right. How are you? How are you feeling about your squad?
How am I feeling about my squad? I feel fine about my squad. Here's the thing about best ball. It's fun. You don't do anything after this except draft, and you can get the players that you want. And you know what? I want CeeDee Lamb, and I want Travis Etienne, and these are players that I want. So for me, when I play a best ball league, it's a lot more about just shooting for the gold. Just go for it. Go all the way. And obviously the early picks are the safer picks. And then when you get down the stretch, I usually try to pick up people that are going to take over midseason. So those rookies that could take over midseason, you can get those later in. So like if you're worried about a veteran getting injured, don't worry too much. Just get a lot of those rookies later that could suddenly go off through your playoffs. Best ball is just so easy and so fun, and it's all about the experience of doing the drafting and kind of practicing for your real drafts.
And best ball,
that's my favorite part of it is that for the first few rounds here at the very least, you get a look at ADP that's nearly identical to real life ADP, right? Eventually, everyone needs to start drafting a second quarterback and a second tight end, and that kind of changes things up a little bit, though positionally, the order is still pretty close. But these first few rounds here, this is what real drafts are going to look like. So it gives you a really good look at it and getting used to the 30-second clock and knowing what's going on, knowing when, it gets pretty spicy unless you've done a million of these and you know what you're doing. So that's why I love these ones. Brett, how many have you done so far? How many underdogs have you done?
I've only done about 10. But once it gets closer on and closer to training camp and I hear some things, and that's one of the best things about rookies in best ball that Jen did mention, some of these rookies that are going to come on later in the season. We've seen it time after time, year after year. 1 year it was Justin Jefferson being 4th on the depth chart. His ADP slid way down. 1 year it was Jamar Chase not being able to catch the football because he had stripes. And you got such a discount on those players that ended up being studs. They ended up winning you your best ball leagues.
I don't know, people that drafted Rashad Penny 2 years ago. Did anybody even take him in best ball leagues? And
maybe in the very, very last.
Yeah. So like that's what's so fun about this to me. Like you can scratch so many lotto tickets in the end. And what is the entry? $3, $5, $10. It is the best way to practice. And then think about it as you do it, like, oh, wait, is this a good strategy? Obviously, you do draft differently for best ball because, as Coop mentioned, you have to have a second quarterback. You have to have a second tight end. You have to have all of those things. But this is just absolutely the best way to practice. So when the draft comes, you know what's going on.
Yeah. And it's, as you mentioned earlier, a great way to get your guys, right? Because when you do your hometown draft, you got guys you want to root for, but you don't want to reach too far, right? So if you want to make sure you have your CeeDee Lamb, like Jen has, and there's Howard, my boss, coming in to yell at me for messing up your name.
By the way,
No.
I
Listen,
sniped you
Andrew
from
Copper, I
Impemba.
think it's all good. Jen Puicenti, I am so happy to see you. I absolutely love it.
Not as happy as I am to see you, Howard Bender. It's been too long.
Reunited, and it feels so good.
I just want to like put the heart emojis like fluttering up around my head for this
do miss
little
you
reunion.
guys.
It's so sweet.
I feel like we're having a reunion, but anyway, best ball.
It is beautiful. Well, while we have Howard and both of you on, Jen, which of Howard's picks do you think was his worst one?
Oh, is his worst one?
Rotobuzz guy, yeah.
Oh God. Okay, hold on. Let me go look at his team.
I don't know if I see any bad picks. That's disappointing.
That's
I was
what I'm
hoping,
talking about.
I was
That's
hoping
what I'm
that
talking
There's that triple stack
I
right
was
there.
I was hoping
I
it'd be
don't see
worse.
a bad pick. I guess
I know.
one thing I would say that I looked at is that in this league the scoring is exactly the same for passing touchdowns and rushing touchdowns. So this ADP for the mobile quarterbacks, maybe it's a little high based on.
There you have it.
Can we talk
Howard,
about Jalen Hurts for a second? Can we actually talk about Jalen Hurts?
Yeah.
So Jalen Hurts had like the third most touchdowns overall. I mean, including among running backs, and he played fewer games than the ones that had more touchdowns than him. Is it possible that he can actually continue that level of scoring? Because there's that debate, like who is the number 1, 2, 3 quarterback? Is Jalen Hurts up there? Can he possibly do that again? I mean, obviously they're a run first team, but it's really about all those goal line carries. That's really what got him up there, because as far as actual rushing yards, Josh Allen had more of those. So how are you guys valuing Jalen Hurts? Do you think he's going to be top 3? Does he have a chance to be number 1? Do you think there's going to be touchdown regression?
I think they're banking on him to do that. They had Miles Sanders and decided, the Panthers threw a bucket of money at him, and they decided, hey, you can have him. We'll fill it out with Rashad Penny for $1 million, DeAndre Swift for a day 3 pick, and Jalen Hurts, who was second in the entire league behind only Jamal Williams and carries inside the 5-yard line. They're saying, hey, this is your show. We're gonna ride you on this one. So, and Howard now with the triple Eagle stack, AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts, and Dallas Goedert. Now Howard Bender is also counting on that this year. Huh?
That's good.
I was gonna say it smells a little Cowboys-ish in here, right? Is that cow patties, cowboys, cowgirls? Britt and Jen probably, gonna try and gang up on me. So I gotta fight back. I'm not, Mr. Eagles guy here, but you know what? To go anti-cowboy, that's what I'm all about here.
That's what we're talking about with the spite picks, Bender. Not only are you spiting us with a triple stack, you're spiting us just because of our fandom.
Yes. Yes.
Wow,
There's
so
nothing
who
better.
is your
Listen,
favorite cowboy not to draft so that you miss out on? Like, is your favorite cowboy to pass on CeeDee Lamb? Is your favorite cowboy to pass on Tony Pollard? Like, what's your favorite cowboy to pass on?
My favorite cowboy to pass on are those lousy cornerbacks you got, because everybody passes on them all day long. No, but for fantasy purposes, listen, I'm fine. I'm fine taking ETN over Tony Pollard. I am fine taking, I don't know, Diggs, Brown, Kupp, anybody over CeeDee Lamb.
Okay.
And you know what? What really warms the heart? This is what really warms the heart, right? Is going through, I've done 30 plus best ball drafts right now, and I have not seen Ezekiel Elliott come off the board in a single one. And that puts a big smile on this beautiful face.
You got to know that Ezekiel Elliott is going to be the best late round pick in your best ball, because he's going to sign somewhere. He's going to be the tank that gets the goal line carries. And in certain weeks, this is best ball. In certain weeks, he's going to go off. Ezekiel Elliott is such a best ball pick.
I'll tell you right now, let's say hypothetically, Ezekiel Elliott goes and signs with the Los Angeles Chargers to be their early down goal line back. Austin Eckler's never had 1,000 yards. They lost to the Jaguars last year because they couldn't run the football. Howard, would you then at least consider Zeke in the last round?
I mean, if he signed with the Chargers, yes, because Eckler is not about going between the tackles. And, it's funny because Kellen Moore is over there now. You know that he does, he and Zeke have a vibe together. And while they complain that Kellen Moore didn't run the ball enough in Dallas, and that was, one of the things that they, that McCarthy wanted to do. I think that Kellen Moore, looking at this offense that was run by Joe Lombardi before for the Chargers, one of the things that I saw him, actually say in an interview was, we do need to run the ball better as a team here in well, I almost said San Diego, but Los Angeles, same difference, right? It's all Southern California, all blends together.
The same.
Yeah. So Jen, we got you on the clock here. I know you don't want to give away too
I'm
many
on the
people.
clock?
You're on the clock. Too many. I know you don't want to give away too many people you're thinking about because you
Oh my
pick
gosh, I
again
was so
in a
far
couple
behind.
picks. That's all right. We were
Uh,
actually going a little quick here, so I'm glad that
Okay.
you slowed it down a little bit. But yeah, so don't give away too many of your picks because you have to pick again in a couple minutes here. But Dameon
it's
Pierce,
funny, my thing
off
wasn't
the board.
updated. It said Dallas Goedert was still available and everything. I had to refresh, so thank you for telling me.
You got it.
I just picked Dameon Pierce. I went for a second running back.
And a
Do
guy
you
who
feel-
runs hard. This is a guy. I mean, I think they gave him some award for the hard running award or whatever at the NFL awards. So Dameon Pierce runs hard, could score. Are you worried at all about Devin Singletary?
No. Are you?
Not really.
Has anybody ever been worried about Devin Singletary?
He could supplement on some pass downs. I don't mind
had the
him.
Same narrative last year. Are we worried about Rex Burkhead? Are we worried about? No. I mean, it is a different system, but remember, this guy is coming over from the San Francisco 49ers. I know he's a defensive-minded coach, but he's kind of been in that Kyle Shanahan system. There's reason to think maybe that running back room, maybe that run game might be pretty interesting. Let's see what happens. But no, I'm not worried about Devin Singletary.
Awesome.
All right, Jen, you're back on the clock. We'll let you make this pick and continue your draft. But before we get you out of here, let everybody know where they can find you and what you've got working on coming up.
Well, you can always find me at si.com. And yeah, you can find me on Twitter, sometimes on SiriusXM. And we're just working on our draft kit, putting out daily baseball bets if you guys like baseball. And yeah, I'm around.
And you've been crushing it in all of those arenas. Thank you so
Not
much
as-
for coming on.
Not
It
as
was
much
great.
If you guys have not heard Britt's latest parody, you got right now. Go watch the Eckler song. That's
The
mine.
Eckler song. So
Coming
good.
from you, Jen. Oh my gosh.
good.
I cried. That's such
I'm
a nice
already
compliment.
writing lyrics to a new song for Britt. We were discussing that the other day, so be on the lookout for that one.
How come you never
Yeah.
write any songs for me, Howard?
Because I only do dance moves for you, Coop. I already know that we've got a TikTok dance going for you.
Let's go.
The tight end TikTok Andrew Cooper love dance.
Let's go, baby. Fire it up.
All right.
Thanks, Jen. You're the best.
I would pay money to see that. Thanks, Jen. All right.
What am I
so
still
Bender-
doing in here? Come on.
Let's get you out of here.
Get
Get
me
Howard
outta here.
All right, Howard's out. All right, we are now coming up into the 6th round of this draft. It's an 18-round draft. Britt, going through this draft so far, anyone that jumps out to you as going a little bit early that you wouldn't expect? We have some big dogs in here with some big personalities that like to plant their flags. So in these drafts, sometimes you do get some guys going a bit early. Anybody that you feel maybe just a little earlier than you would have taken them?
Deebo Samuel, I think, went a little bit higher than I would have thought. He had that one great season where he was wide receiver 2, and the rest of his seasons have been in the low wide receiver 2 or even high end wide receiver 3 range or below. His ADP right here going as the 3rd, 6th, 9th, 11th off the board when he's been going as wide receiver 16. That's a little spicy for me. I don't necessarily know if he's going to have that ceiling, especially when there's so much uncertainty at quarterback. Is it going to be Brock Purdy? Is it going to be Trey Lance? Could it be Sam Darnold? We don't know right now. And so that to me is just a little rich for my taste. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel you on that. The one thing I will defend for Deebo in this format is that even with McCaffrey coming back, they did mix in a couple carries for him. They like doing end arounds. They liked putting him straight in the backfield in shotgun and just kind of giving him the ball. anytime you can score, and we saw this with Amon-Ra St. Brown, where anytime you can just have a normal day and then throw a rushing touchdown on top of it, that's huge in best ball. We never know when it's going to happen, which makes it tough for redraft leagues to take some of these guys where they depend on that. Like a Curtis Samuel depends on that. And it's like, when is he going to do it? With Debo in best ball, you just get those points whenever that happens. So if he goes out and scores a rushing touchdown and then catches a touchdown, that's huge. I think that's why in this particular format, he's a guy that might go there. But to your point, Britt, I'm not taking him right there. I'm taking some of these other guys. Some of the guys that I see getting a discount. One of the biggest discounts right now in fantasy football is the wide receiver 2 label. We see it a lot. I love the pick, Devonta Smith, T. Higgins in the 3rd round, Jalen Waddle in the 3rd round. These guys that are labeled wide receiver 2s because they're the wide receiver 2 on their own team, but can be wide receiver 1s in fantasy football. I love that discount. I love the picks there. Jalen Waddle especially is a guy who we see him go from the 7-yard A dot as a rookie to a 12-yard A dot with Mike McDaniel. Big things coming for that player in a highly consolidated offense. So big fan of that pick. Of these running backs in this, the last 2 rounds here, Miles Sanders, Joe Mixon, Kenneth Walker, Dameon Pierce, Aaron Jones, J.K. Dobbins, Dalvin Cook. We look at how many wide receivers are going early. That is a nice selection of guys to pick from in rounds 5 and 6 here. Of those guys, Brett, who do you like best? Like if you were picking where Greedo on the chart, which is Matt Deutsch picked when he took Miles Sanders, you could have had any one of those players. Are you taking Sanders there? Or is there another guy you like?
I think I do like Sanders the best out of those guys. You get a huge discount on Dalvin Cook right there and even Joe Mixon, but there's so much uncertainty on which team they're going to go to, if they're even going to be with the same team. So that's a little bit of a risk taking them there. Miles Sanders has little to no competition in that offense. He's going to be a 3-down back, and that's something that you rarely see in the NFL these days. So yeah, I think you've got a huge discount there on him. And especially if Carolina can do anything on offense, we've got something cooking with gas here.
Yeah, I love that spot for Miles Sanders. I mean, if we talked about Jalen Hurts earlier and how he doesn't throw to the running back much and how he vultures touchdowns, wouldn't the opposite go for Miles Sanders, where if he's now getting away from that, the team that was dead last in running back target percentage, with a quarterback that took a lot of the touchdowns, him getting away from that, wouldn't that be good for him for fantasy football? I guess the opposite, the kind of the flip side, is that you're really betting a lot on Bryce Young being able to step forward. Do you have any reservation when it comes to these rookie quarterbacks and drafting the players alongside them, or are you just trusting the talent?
I think you have to trust the talent. If it comes down to any of those 3, I'm taking Richardson first because of that rushing upside. And apparently it's come out that he wasn't as much of a developmental player as people let on in the pre-draft process. Like he's taking a huge step forward in rookie minicamp. He looks great. So I like him. I like CJ Stroud because of the volume. I think I like Bryce Young the least out of these top 3 because of their running game. And I don't think he'll have to pass that much. As far as a talent thing, I think they're all great. But as we've seen with a lot of rookies, it takes a little while to get acclimated to the NFL.
Yeah, I think when it comes to rookies, you have it right that Anthony Richardson's the guy that you take the stab on, simply because we forget that a guy like Josh Allen, he as a rookie was fantasy relevant, but his completion percentage was like 52%. It wasn't even in the top 35 or so quarterbacks. And the next year it went up to 58%, which basically he went from completely terrible to merely unacceptable. When they got Stephon Diggs, he took that big step forward. But because of the rushing, he was relevant the whole time, right? You look at Justin Fields last year, 1,000 rushing yards, like he's relevant, even though the team threw the fewest passes since the leather helmet era, right? So these rushing quarterbacks, Anthony Richardson doesn't have to be an amazing quarterback right away to be fantasy relevant, where these other pocket passing guys, they do need to be good quarterbacks, like we saw with Trevor Lawrence, who became a good quarterback. Now, speaking of Trevor Lawrence, we saw Calvin Ridley coming off the board round 4. I know that John and Pemba, river seekers in this draft, at times I've seen him draft him in the 3rd round, right? This is a guy who we're coming in 2 years not playing football, essentially, complete wild card, but could be the top pass catcher on the team. I mean, are you taking him 3rd round, 4th round? Are you just skipping him? What are your thoughts on Calvin Ridley? It's a pretty divisive topic.
I love Calvin Ridley. I think, obviously there is some risk built in because he hasn't played in 2 years, but now that he's there and he's got these explosive weeks, you don't have to decide in best ball who to plug into your lineup. If he goes off, he's already there. So we've got Matt Deutsch with us, the better boss. I think you just made a pick. You just took Michael Thomas.
Love that pick. Love that pick, Matt. Let's go, baby. How we doing?
I'm sucking up to Coop. I know Coop loves Michael
yeah.
Thomas. I've literally never rostered Michael Thomas ever. I think he's a guy who got paid and didn't show up. But for Coop, I'm in. Let's do it.
Hey, I told everybody before this that you pick the players I like. I'm open to bribes, whatever you got to do to get on my good side. It all works. So taking Kyle Pitts, Miles Sanders, Michael Thomas back to back, Matt. You are now. Sorry, Jim Coventry, you're out. Matt is now my favorite guest on the show.
That's right.
Sucking up to the boss.
Go. I will say with Michael Thomas that this is the same thing I said about Christian McCaffrey last year. We've never seen him be bad. We've only seen him be hurt. Even last year, I know he was only there for 3 games before he hurt his toe. Not even his big toe, mind you, the toe next to the big toe. He had 3 touchdowns in those games. He's on pace for 90 receptions. Who knows with Derek Carr? Who knows? So that's my Michael Thomas take. I want to get a quick rundown of your squad here, Matt. Why don't you take us from the top while we have it up on the screen?
Well, I'm the first one to take a running back, Christian McCaffrey, with the number 3 overall after Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase went. I understand the need for receivers in this format, but I'm going to take McCaffrey, who just looked great in San Francisco. Obviously an injury concern, but I'm going to be injury agnostic here, and I'm just going to take the best player, take McCaffrey there. And I love Devonta Smith, the number 2 in Philly, some would say, the number 1 in Philly. I think you said you like him in the 3rd round, Coop. I took him in the 2nd round there. Could have had a number of other receivers to choose from, but in a best ball, I really like Devonta Smith in that offense. And then in the 3rd round, my guy, number 1 fantasy point scorer in 2023. Book it now. Justin Fields plays for me.
Ooh, that's a spicy one, but honestly, not too spicy. I mean, if you go and look at the highlights from last year, it wasn't just the running. Like there were some obviously 70-yard plays. He had some passes that were absurd. This guy can throw the football. People think that maybe he's just a runner. This guy can chalk it. So bringing in the weapons, man, this is exactly how we got Josh Allen, right? How he took the step with Stephon Diggs. It's how we got Jalen Hurts when they got all those weapons for him. They're trying to do the same thing with Justin Fields. It could pay off huge here. Britt, for you, if you take Justin Fields, are you trying to pair him with anyone else, or is that the kind of guy where you're just willing to let it ride?
So you can do either one. I think that DJ Moore is going far enough in this format. He's going in the next round that you could pair him up with him. But as we mentioned earlier, it doesn't really matter with a rushing quarterback if you stack them because they have standalone value. You can wait to stack another later round quarterback with somebody else on your roster and then basically double dip in that value and maximize your points from week to week.
Well, I would have taken Anthony Richardson there to pair him with Fields in a crazy quarterback room, but someone took him before me. I'm on the clock now, so attempting this sub. Should we take Darnell Mooney right here? I know it's early, but I don't know how healthy that ankle is. He's running. I would love to pair Mooney with Fields right here. Is it too early?
So my general thought on this, and the beautiful thing is we actually have the guy that is the expert on the stacking on this show, Josh Larkey. He's done a ton of the research on it. Can't wait to have him on. So we'll pick his brain on this. I say you make the pick, and then we'll ask Larkey what he thinks of it later, because he's done an extensive amount of research on whether or not it's worth it to stack, and at what point reaching negates the value of stacking. So we'll have to see what he says on this. But in this range, the way I look at it is in the 1st round, you don't want to go too far outside of ADP. You want to take 1st round guys or 2nd round guys. Once you get into the 7th round, the wheels come off a bit. I mean, I think you can go as far as guys that have 8, 9, round 10 ADP as long as you get your guy. And that is especially true in Best Ball Mania, the big tournaments, because there are so many people doing these drafts. There are possibly guys out there that are going to have a very similar, if not the same team to you. You need to differentiate yourself somehow. You picking Darnell Mooney here in a situation where we don't know who the top dog is going to be, right? Could be DJ Moore, could be Chase Claypool. Back when the Panthers in 2020, we thought it was going to be DJ Moore. What happened? Robbie Anderson and Curtis Samuel outscored DJ Moore. They were going wide receiver 50 and 60 versus wide receiver 9. So that pick right there, Matt, you could have just won it. You could have just lost it. Who knows? But stacking, we know there's correlation there. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. And reports, I just kind of pulled it up. Reports are that Mooney's ankle injury is something that it's not likely he's going to miss any time. So at least you can feel good about that, Matt.
I got a very high-end upside team with Christian McCaffrey, Devonta Smith, Justin Fields, and Kyle Pitts. Obviously, there's going to be some bad weeks there, some good weeks there. Hopefully, it all lines up well. And Michael Thomas. And I'm so glad that Britt loves my Miles Sanders pick in Carolina.
I think that's great. That value there, it just can't be beat. And we've seen, because of this format specifically, the running back dead zone doesn't really exist as much as it has in years past. And you can really get these guys at such a discount that are going to carry your team to the next level. Matt, with Kyle Pitts, does Arthur Smith's passing volume worry you at all? Or do you think he's still going to get so much volume that he's going to pay off?
Once we get Taylor Heineke in there, no one's going to be running the ball in Atlanta. Heineke is going to throw that ball. It's going to be London. It's going to be Pitts. They've got weapons out of the backfield. I love this Atlanta offense secretly, and I do think it's going to be Heineke. No offense to Ritter. I love what Heineke can do. He'll throw some picks, but he's going to throw that ball up there, and I'm all in on Pitts.
Wow, calling the Heineke shot now, man. I love it, dude. And the thing with Pitts and Drake London that I love is that because of what Arthur Smith does with the fullback Keith Smith, and they traded for Jonnu Smith, who is likely to be an inline tight end, those guys don't soak up targets, right? So if you're using that spot for guys that aren't going to be getting passes, that's just highly consolidating whatever's left for targets to Pitts and Drake London. Now, last year, if you look at just the percentages, they were very high. Their target share was high, but when you don't have a huge volume, it doesn't look like very many targets. But with Taylor Heineke in there, who knows?
You might see him on my team in the last round. Nobody take Heineke. Leave him for me.
There you go. Matt Deutsch, who set this whole thing up and is the better boss, has just requested that everyone please don't snipe his player later. There you go. I don't know how many people are be clamoring for Taylor Heineke, so I think you might be all right there, Matt.
Not now, but see you in August.
Not now. Okay. All right. I love it, man. Hey, thank you so much for joining us. Anything out there? We all know your Bettor network. Anything out there you want to throw out that's coming up soon, or for people to look forward to here on Bettor Sports?
Well, we're just so excited for football season to come. It can't come soon enough. We're talking football every day from the fantasy perspective, of course, betting as well. I mean, I play in 7 fantasy baseball leagues, but football is king, and I can't wait to get in the huddle with all of you and all our Bettor fans out there and have a lot of fun with the National Football League.
Yeah, buddy, you said it best. I play in all of those. I play fantasy baseball, basketball. I do NASCAR, but it's all football all the time for me. All the time, man. So thank you very much for putting this together, buddy. Thanks for coming on and joining us. Good luck with the rest of the draft.
All right. Great job. Have fun, everyone.
Thanks, Matt.
Awesome, man. So, Britt, we're getting to the part of the draft now where and everybody has this guy. You know, I think I'm going to ask on Twitter who their guy is, but everybody has their guy where they look at the first wide receiver on the team being drafted and they say, I'm not taking him because I'm going to take his teammate later. Right. So you see, now we're starting to see guys earlier. Obviously, you see the DK Metcalfs and the Jalen Waddles go, but now we're starting to see some of these other secondary guys go. Brandon Ayuk, multiple rounds after Deebo Samuel. Tyler Lockett now going 5 rounds after DK Metcalf. For you, who is I'm not drafting this guy because I'm going to wait and take his teammate later? Who fits that category for you this year?
What I'm kind of looking at right now is that Mike Evans is still on the board 2 rounds after Chris Godwin. Evans, I know that the situation in Tampa Bay is kind of fluid with the quarterback situation, but Evans is such a target hog and consistent producer. I mean, if you're getting him in the 8th or 9th round, whatever we're in right now, he's going to have those spike weeks that's going to win you matchups and really pad your stat line. So I'm kind of looking at him more so than I am Chris Godwin. I don't think that I'm seeing him on here. I really do think he's still available. Who's a guy like that for you?
No, he did go. Mike Evans went to Brad Thomas. It looks like after Godwin, though. After Godwin, so Godwin went first. It's so it fits that bill as well. Like If you think it's Mike Evans, then you don't take Chris Godwin. Evans, to me, is a guy that he's going to be a red zone target no matter who the quarterback is. People say that Baker Mayfield, maybe he'll dump it down or go shorter. When you get to the red zone, that's where Mike Evans makes his money, right? When he has these, 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns is his calling card. He doesn't need 179 targets or whatever he had in 2015 to be a high end player. So I'm fully with you. And if you like DK Metcalf, I don't see why you wouldn't like Mike Evans a couple of rounds later. Like they're cut from the same cloth, those two fellas. So I'm with you on that one. For me, one pick I routinely see, and I want to see if it happened here, is I often now am seeing George Pickens go ahead of Deontay Johnson. ADP
It's madness.
it kind of does blow my mind a little bit, right? Like it's almost like we look at last year and say, oh, he got 147 targets, but he didn't catch any touchdowns, so he won't catch any touchdowns again. I would bet my bottom dollar that Deontay Johnson catches a couple of touchdowns this year, and he could have the same number of targets. And Kenny Pickett, we're expecting him to be better. He threw 7 touchdown passes last year. If he throws 7 touchdown passes again, he's not going to be throwing any more passes for a professional team for very long. So I'm on board with Deontay Johnson. What about you? Are you taking, if you had to pick one of Pickens, Deontay Johnson, or Freiermuth to be your guy, including the scarcity of tight ends, so you can factor them, which one would you like of that crew?
I think I would like Johnson. I really do. I think that target volume is going to put him over the edge. And even if he can just get 2 or 3 touchdowns, he's going to be the guy.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so just want to remind people before we bring our next guest that Thursday night football up until 7 p.m. here on the Bettor Network, on the Bettor Sports Network, we're going to be doing the high stakes fantasy football show with our good friend Eric Bachman of the FFPC. Anyone that joins us for the draft show this year knows how smart this guy is, how plugged in he is. And then at 9 p.m. afterwards, or towards the middle of Thursday Night Football, we're going to have Dynasty Nerds with Garrett Price and the Nerd Herd on there. So get your player rankings and projections, draft strategies, more tonight starting 7 Eastern. Join the shows on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Bettor Network, or the Bettor Sports Network app. That's starting tonight and most Thursday nights. Awesome football content here on Bettor Sports. So make sure you join us for that. It's going to be an absolute blast. So when I go through this draft so far, if I had to pick my team to if I was going to take over one of these teams, I think I'm taking River Seekers. Alex, what's up, buddy? Alex Dunlap of Roster Watch joining us here. And you've got the advantage of using the best ball cheat sheet over at Roster Watch, which I don't know. If I was going to be in this draft, maybe I'd slide some money just to see if I could get that secret intel from you guys over at Roster Watch. What do you think, Alex? You think people out there that draft with you jump in there and grab the cheat sheet to try and pull one over on you?
I don't know. Maybe sometimes when we're doing the live streams and stuff like that, we get sniped a little bit. But yeah, man, I'm on the clock right now. I'm thankful we don't have a 30-second pick clock because I don't like how this has fallen to me at the 8-9 turn. You guys were just talking about George Pickens, and the cheat sheet's basically telling me I have a choice here. I'm gonna take 2 guys between Pickens, James Cook, and Tua. I'm just wondering if, man, I think Tua is at the point where I can probably take him. I've already gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wide receiver, only 2 running backs. But I got put in a position earlier where I just could not take Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb at the 2-3 turn.
Can't pass.
In a
not in
half
half PPR too, right?
Yeah,
so,
like
you can't pass.
I've gone with 5 wide receivers. I mean, the wide receivers: Justin Jefferson, DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Watson, Treylon Burks, Kadarius Toney. It's a pretty strong start. I think I'm going to go running back. Reach for, because I'm on the turn. But by the time it comes back to me again, I think, maybe I could be able to get a Geno Smith. I'm not sure though. I'm not sure that Aaron Rodgers, Geno Smith, those kinds of guys are going to be available. And I'd like to have a number 1 quarterback of this ilk. This is where I'd like to take him. So I'm going to go ahead and take right now, as much as I hate taking James Cook, I'm going to take him. And then I'm going to take Tua.
I think it's smart to take Tua here. I mean, we watched him last year. He was looking like a QB1 when he was healthy. And from what I've seen, I'm not a neurologist, but I've looked up as much information as I can on it. In
You're
that,
not a neurologist? I figure that's what you're doing if you're doing a best ball draft stream on a Thursday afternoon.
Believe it or not, Alex, I'm not a neurologist, not a full-time neurologist for this particular. Yeah, I'm taking 2 hours off midday here. But yeah, believe it or not a neurologist, but I've looked up information from actual neurologists where they suggest that the data shows that over the short term, if your brain hasn't healed properly, you are more susceptible to additional head injuries. But if you wait the requisite amount of time, there's not really enough there's not really a lot of concrete data that you'd be more susceptible to additional injuries moving forward. Not that there wouldn't be long-term effects or things like that, but essentially what they're saying is that because if Tua had a concussion 9 months ago, it doesn't make him more susceptible to another one this year. That's what I'm seeing. But again, not necessarily fully conclusive data, but for me personally, I'm not fading him and saying I'm not going to draft him because of that. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
And McDaniel at the combine, when we were getting to address that guy, he's talked about how he's in jujitsu and stuff this year. I'll tell you this, like I don't do jujitsu, but both of my kids do. They actually, I'll pick them up from school today. They go. I spend 4 hours a week in that damn jujitsu studio, so I get to watch what they do. Man, so much of what they do is the break fall stuff. It's when you fall on your back, how you break the fall, how knock on wood, man. I think my kids, they're 8 and 5, and hopefully they're not going to be in a spot where they fall and like I said, knock on wood, hurt themselves because. It's a big thing. It's like they work on that. If it's like 1 hour of class, you work on that thing for like 20 minutes. I think so. Something like that could probably help Tua just with the way that he kind of, if he can get kind of, I don't want to say beaten into his head because that's a bad way to put it. If it can get, if it can become part of his routine to learn how to fall correctly, you know what I mean? It could be helpful.
A lot of athletes could use that, honestly. You see basketball. Jeremy Lin just got the concussion the other night. You look at, I'll tell you, when you ski or snowboard, you better learn how to fall real quick, right? Because that's what you're doing the first year or so.
You're gonna fall a lot.
Yeah, and if you're me, you never stop, right? So you got to learn how to fall. So for anybody out there, learning that at a young age, that's huge. Britt, did you ever do any jujitsu or taekwondo growing up?
I did not even learn how to ride a bike, let alone learn how to do jujitsu or any kind of sports or anything like that. I was too busy feeding cows. Okay. Too busy feeding cows for sports. Alex, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for Did you say you were too busy feeding cows or feeding cats?
Cows. I grew up on a farm. Yeah.
She grew on a cat farm, Alex. It's
cat farm.
I feel like I'm herding cats half the time. I have 14 chickens out here. It's probably not quite the same as cows, but
well, I did work in chicken houses too, so yeah, I definitely know both sides of that. But I don't know if you can see it back here, but this Treylon Burks ball, I am the resident Treylon Burks truther, and I saw that you took him. How do you feel about his second year step forward? Is he going to have that step forward? Does Tennessee's passing volume or the uncertainty at quarterback worry you at all? Or where are you on Treylon Burks?
No. I'm like, I wasn't going to leave. I don't leave many drafts without Treylon Burks. I think that his ADP has kind of started it's just begun to rise a little bit. It hadn't been one of these major risers over the last couple of days. Like, the Alexander Madison has been just a crazy, I was look today, he's up 16 and a half spots over the last 2 days, stuff like this. But Treylon Burks, I think I was seeing earlier up like 4.2 spots in the latest update from Underdog. I think people were just worried, man. Is he going to come in? Is it going to be like last year was so weird, man. It was so weird. He comes in, he's got the asthma. He can't breathe. He's having trouble picking up the playbook, all that stuff. The Titans were allowed to report back on April 17th. Treylon Burks has been there in the building every day working out. He said he wasn't going to go anywhere else to work out. He wanted to be around the coaches, wanted to be around the team, just wanted to be around the guys. And he just says he feels so much better. And if you look at these videos that the Titans media staff has been putting out, like you all saw the one with Rabel's sled that they were pushing around, Treylon Burks, very, very, you just know when you're around teams as much as we are, and you go visit these teams, and you go, that's what we do, is we do a lot of travel to these places, and what the media departments of these places do. They are inclined to put in the face of the media stuff the guys who are kind of becoming the storylines internally, and the players that their internal narrative starting to shift around. And it just feels like there's been a lot of Treylon Burks. They've been sending him out to talk to the media. They've been putting him as the kind of smiling face in all these videos. He was an incredible prospect coming out. And now that there's no worry about anything, he's talking about how good he feels, what a good headspace he's in. It's like, man, it's wheels up. My only worry about this is I don't know if any of my fellow drafters are listening to this, but I was hoping I could come away from this draft with Chigo Okonkwo here with my next pick. And I don't necessarily like having two of these Tennessee guys. Maybe that'll mean, if it turns out that my quarterback situation gets too dire and I end up having to go 3 quarterbacks, maybe I could sneak in Tannehill for one of those just for some late backdoor stack.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir here. I'm a big Chigo Okonkwo fan. Just wrote an article on him. So, I said that sucking up to the host works, and it does work. So, Alex, now my new favorite on the show, Chigo Okonkwo to the moon. His rookie year, a lot of the same metrics, even when you look at the snap share and target share, similar to Mark Andrews, where if you just take what he did, pour a few extra snaps on there, we're feeling pretty good. So I love that. And I want to ask you, because the narrative of who the team is kind of putting in your face and who they're talking about and the buzz is about, I think that goes kind of under the radar a little bit. But when you look back at some of these, especially like Hard Knocks, right? Like, where was DeAndre Swift? Right? You couldn't find him.
That's true. It was all Jamal Williams.
It's all Jamal Williams. It was all Amon-Ra St. Brown. And then when the season started, who were the guys? And now DeAndre Swift is out. So I know you mentioned that you go around looking, for different teams, talking to different media groups. Is there any other player that you've noticed that the team seems to really be kind of hyping him up, or putting him on a pedestal that maybe the rest of us haven't caught up to yet? Or just anybody, even if they're already like a megastar, where the team is like very excited about this player and you think it might translate?
Yeah, well, I mean, so the best of that information is going to come. Like, most of these OTAs don't start until the 22nd. Right. So, that's when we'll start being out and about, for that stuff. Mandatory mini camps, most of these are June 13th through the 16th. So we'll be at those. And of course, on Sirius XM, we'll be on through, July and August doing our training camp tour. That's when we're going to get most of that stuff. What I was talking about mainly was just kind of what the media department, from my collective experience being around media departments, has led me to believe that that is the case. And so what I've noticed lately with it's like the Alexander Madison thing about how they took off Dalvin Cook off the background of their Twitter profile. Exactly. It's, there are things like that they can do to kind of tip you off. So maybe if we're looking for a recent example, maybe something like that. And we've seen how the fantasy community's reacted to that.
Awesome, man. So, coming up next week, we have OTA starting. I think virtually every team starts by
basically everybody's on the 22nd, it feels like. And then there's just some stuff where it's like they'll have a day off here, a day off there, but through basically June, I think it's June 2nd, we'll have news from every team. And then most of those mandatory mini camps, I think some of them have them June 6th through June 8th, but most of them, it feels like, are June 13th through June 15th. So be getting out on the horse and go and checking this stuff out.
Awesome, man. So, hey, we're going to be keeping an eye on you and what you guys have going on, since you're pretty plugged in on that. Why don't you tell us what else you guys have going on over at Roster Watch, what you're working on, what you have coming up, so that people can look out for it?
Yeah, just the best ball cheat sheet. That's what I'm drafting off right now. We have the Dynasty rookie cheat sheets that are up right now. I update those things all the time. And then there's the redraft cheat sheets. Those will be available just as soon as we can get good ADP sources from redraft leagues. We don't really have any yet. And we all know how different this cockamamie best ball stuff is from the real redraft leagues where you just have to beat your friends. It's a little bit different, man. They don't take such weird strategies. It's more fun to draft in those rooms than it is these rooms. So once we get some good ADP sources, usually right around the time of those mandatory mini camps, probably around June 10th to June 15th, we'll get V1.0 up of those various sheets. And then, just keep an eye out for us. Roster Watch Podcast, Roster Watch YouTube, and then on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio during July and August. We're on if not every day, pretty close. And hoping to do more stuff here with Matt, man, our boy, the guy that gave us our start over there, Matt Deutsch here at Bettor Sports Network. Love everything he's doing. So hopefully you'll be seeing our faces around over here too.
He's the best, man. And you are the best, Alex. Thank you for joining us. Everybody out there, follow him at Roster Watch. And if you're watching at home right now, cross your fingers. Hope he gets his guy Chiga Conquo coming up here. So let's go,
guys.
baby. Hope you complete that
Thanks,
stack.
Joe.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, we would love to see that stack. Getting my Traylon Burks and then getting your Chiga Conquo, that's sucking up to both hosts. That's how you do it, man.
You guys scared me. So I wanted I wanted to take Tannehill when we did our best ball mania draft. So folks, if you want to see how you draft in one of those, it's even more aggressive than this. This is a classic, $5, winner gets $50. It's a contained league, we call it. The best ball mania, that's a monster league where the winner gets $3 million. Last year, friend Pat Carane won $2 million. This year, it's $3 million. If you want to get involved with that, use promo code Fantasy Alarm right now to get signed up, or go to fantasyalarm.com/underdog. They'll match up to $100, 100% of what you deposit there. Get involved with us. Get in over at the Discord where we're doing these with Fantasy Alarm members every day. We did one last night, Britt, right? That was a ton of fun. Except for
great.
Kevin Tompkins got kicked out because we accidentally sent out too many invites. But that's neither here nor there. We're going to get him in next time. So looking at this round here, this is where we're seeing the scragglers at quarterback going. Every team's going to draft 2 or 3 quarterbacks. So virtually every viable quarterback is going to go, according to Matt Deutsch, even Taylor Heineke, whether he's viable or not. In this range, Britt, we're looking at, obviously, Anthony Richardson is, to me, considered a premier quarterback. Then you have Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Tua, Geno Smith, Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins. Of that crew, after Anthony Richardson, once the monster rushing upside is gone, who are you feeling good about? Like, which one of those guys are you walking away saying, I got a good value here at this pick?
I think that Kirk Cousins is a really great value. He's perennially undervalued. I think he's going at quarterback 14 right now, if my ADP is correct. And he finishes in the top almost every year. And now he's got Justin Jefferson. They added Jordan Addison. I mean, he's got so many weapons along with TJ Hawkinson. This guy is going to produce, and getting him in the 9th round is that's crazy good value. I'm also surprised that Dak went in the 10th, that he went 4 rounds nearly completely after Russell Wilson. Do they really think that Russell Wilson is going to take that big step forward with Sean Payton at head coach?
So I didn't even notice that Dak just went just now. Like, I would have taken Dak ahead of a lot of these guys, honestly, ahead of Rodgers and Cousins. I do like Cousins. If you look at Cousins' stats, there's nothing that Josh Allen does passing the football that Kirk Cousins doesn't do. Like, on a per game basis, their pass numbers are very similar, right down to the touchdowns, interceptions. Kirk Cousins actually throws for more yards per game over the last couple of years in general. It's obviously the rushing that makes a difference, but for them to go that far apart, I'm not quite sure about that. I will say, though, Dak, you're the Cowboys fan, but I would take Dak ahead of a lot of these guys, just knowing that they have not only CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup back, but they have Brandon Cooks this year as well, right? That's a home run hitter, a very reliable and solid player. This team could be back to huck it, chuck it football with Dak Prescott. So honestly, me personally, I know people love taking QBs early this year, stacking them up. I don't mind hanging out and taking this crew of guys. I have a lot of Tua. I have a lot of Geno. Daniel Jones is a guy that I've been kind of sour on, but if he's going to run for 700 yards, what can I say? Are you a Daniel Jones fan? Sorry. We have to cut over to Mr. Alfredo Brown, the pretend GM, representing football guys today. Alfredo, what's up, my boy? How you doing? I got you on mute. Let's try.
There we go. I think we're here now.
Yeah, there we go.
What's going on?
Man? How we doing? How's the weather down there in Miami?
Oh my gosh, it is so hot. It is so unbearably hot. It's awful. I hate having to go anywhere because you're just, even in your car, AC full blast, you're just sweating all over the place. You get somewhere and be like, "You okay?" It's like, yeah, but it's just hot out, man. It's awful.
So that's why you jumped at this excuse to hop inside for, tell everybody, hey, I have 2 hours. I have to be inside midday when the sun's beating down. I have no choice. It's business, it's work. It's the most important event of the year, the Better Sports Draft Invitational. So I imagine you jumped at that opportunity for that reason alone.
That reason alone, yes. It's also a lot of fun to just like I always use that as my excuse with my wife. Like, sorry, I got it's work. I got to do this. I got to go knock out 5 best ball drafts today. I got to make sure I'm watching film. It's work.
It is work, absolutely. And when you draft with guys like Alex that we just had on, like Howard Bender, Matt Deutsch, it's a little extra work. So looking through this draft so far, where were some? Everyone gets sniped at least a little bit. There's some guys that just make you at least say, "Oh, I was hoping he would come back to me." Were there any picks so far in this draft where you looked at it and you were like, "Man, so close, got sniped though"?
Yeah, that happened a couple of times. I know that early on, I was hoping to maybe get the Joe Burrow, T. Higgins stack there. And then for the correlation with Tyreek Hill, Dolphins play the Ravens week 17. So I was hoping maybe I could end up getting like a Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews as I go on that turn. That didn't quite happen. So I just kept telling, stay patient. Just grab your guys that are up at the top of your ADPs, and then you can start to stack later. And I ended up getting lucky with Trevor Lawrence and Christian Kirk a little bit later.
Honestly, you got to let the stacks come to you.
Yeah.
If you reach too far, then you're overdoing it. There's nothing better than when it falls right into your lap. But the Trevor Lawrence Christian Kirk one, that's one that anyone can maneuver, right? In some of these leagues where it's especially in Superflex, it's impossible to pair Joe Burrow with Jamar Chase. But you can still kind of swing it with the Trevor Lawrence Christian Kirk. I saw that you've taken a favorite of mine, Samaje Perine.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of taking him in this particular format. And if I go 0 RB in real life drafts and I'm looking for, obviously you fill your bench with upside plays, but you got to find somebody to start, right? That's a guy I don't mind taking. What were your thoughts on Perine when you took him in looks like the 9th round here?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't super excited about it. I know that everyone wants to be really hyped about their picks. Like one of the things that I've learned with best ball is that sometimes you're just going to have to embrace being wrong, right? And you may not love your picks, but that's kind of good because you need to be able to diversify all of your rosters that you have here. But when it came to Samaje Perine, the thing with me was, I mean, we saw what he's able to do when he took over for Joe Mixon last year. That was a much different offense. That's the Cincinnati Bengals offense. But if he's able to do that behind that offensive line, and then now you're heading on over to Denver, where it's a little bit better. Sean Payton brings in a little bit of a better running offense over there. The big worry is how bad is Javonte Williams' knee? And the fact that right now in May, they're saying, we hope he'll be ready for training camp. We heard a lot of that same stuff last year about J.K. Dobbins, right? And it's like, we hope that he'll be okay. And then it was, that he's not really having those problems and he'll be out there week 1. And then week 1 turned into like week 7. And then week 7, it was like 5 carries. And I'm worried that that's what we're going to end up with Javonte Williams. And so Samaje Perine, even though he wasn't my favorite pick here, he's a guy that I think that his ADP, that's a what we call a plus EV pick, right? I think that his ADP could skyrocket here over the next couple months as more and more reports start to come out about Javonte Williams.
Yeah, it seems like they're trying their best to really bury that by saying that, yeah, we think or hope that he'll be ready for training camp. But realistically, with an injury that severe to the knee, he's probably not going to be back, at least for week 1, likely not until week 4 or 5. So Perine here is huge. Another guy that I really like on your roster that I think we all like is Jordan Addison. And he went a little bit higher, especially for a rookie. How stoked are you on him? And what do you think his role in Minnesota is going to be?
Yeah, I think he got an awesome landing spot. I think that this was sort of the place that a lot of us were hoping that a good rookie wide receiver would end up in. And it happened. And this year that happened for a lot of these rookies. But Jordan Addison specifically, there's very seldomly do you see where a guy's talent actually matches with what was needed for that team. And he's such a good route runner. He doesn't have to be the explosive over the top guy like Justin Jefferson is. And Justin Jefferson is such an alpha that the defense is going to be commanded all over there. Right. And that's going to leave a lot of things wide open for Jordan Addison. And he can do a lot of that work that he does so well in the middle, go one-on-one with a team's cornerback too. And I mean, we talked about Adam Thielen had over 100 targets last year. A lot of those, and I know it doesn't directly correlate from one player to the next, but you're talking about a very high volume passing offense that looks like they're going to lose Dalvin Cook. So passing may become their major identity more than ever. And you're talking about a rookie wide receiver, and rookie wide receivers have been good. So I really do love Jordan Addison being able to step in there, potentially look at over 100 targets in his rookie season. And we saw whether it was Pitt or USC, didn't matter the quarterback or the offense, he was able to make plays when he got targets. And so that's what I'm looking for here with the Vikings.
Yeah, I've been doing some research on that. I was very interested in the switch from Adam Thielen to Jordan Addison, and what I found was they actually could have designated Adam Thielen as a June 1 cut and spread that money over 2 years, but they didn't do that. So to me, that kind of tells me that them moving on from Adam Thielen, not necessarily all about the money, right? Because if it was, then they could have easily used that accounting trick to not only save that money, but save more this year. Now, another guy in that situation, Dalvin Cook, they could have released him already. At this point, what they're doing is potentially they could be looking to trade him, which you can, after June 1, you can trade and get that same discount, but they would have cut him if they were going to cut him. Do you have any insights on the Dalvin Cook situation? And if Dalvin Cook does get moved, where do you think would be a good trade partner or landing spot for a guy like Dalvin?
Well, first, I don't think that he ends up getting traded. I think that he is going to just end up getting cut. I think that any leverage that the Vikings might have had has been lost throughout this whole process of more and more reports coming out. With Dalvin, I'd say, I mean, you always want to assume that these older running backs that have a little bit of juice left are going to want to go to a contending team. I think because of his connections down here in South Florida and being a Florida guy, Miami Dolphins could make some sense. And that's Mike McDaniel, the head coach, and Chris Greer have both kind of hinted at, hey, we might not be done adding to that running back room after drafting Devon Achane. That's a possibility. And then I think the other team that's been banded around a lot, which I kind of like for Dalvin, is the Kansas City Chiefs. And, you know, that's a team that last year you didn't know who they were going to target amongst the wide receivers. And it could be another situation like that. But for running backs, you don't know who's going to be out there in that backfield. And they're looking at an older Jerick McKinnon. And he had a good rookie season, but still there's not a whole lot tied to Isaiah Pacheco. So I wouldn't be surprised if Dalvin ends up in either Miami or Kansas City.
Britt, which one would you, if you had to pick one, Kansas City or Miami for a guy like Dalvin?
I love Kansas City because partially that running back room in Miami would just be a disaster of a dumpster fire as far as figuring out who to play in any given week. Like, it's great for best ball, but in a normal redraft dynasty situation, it would just be a disaster trying to figure out who to play from week to week. I think that Dalvin would have some real value in Kansas City. I would hate it for Jerick McKinnon, but he's just a better all-around back and would fit in really well there. Disaster Dumpster Fire, our producer says, would be a great band name.
Yeah. Dibs on that one. So, hey, good to see that Alex got Chig Okonkwo. Alex at Roster Watch, he got his guy. Let's see if he goes for the full stack with Tannehill. Now, before we let you go, Alfredo, you did take Jordan Addison. Now, other people following in your steps, we're seeing a lot of rookie wide receivers coming off the board in this range. We saw Jonathan Mingo go. We just saw Jalen Hyatt, Rashee Rice, Marvin Mims now just went. Obviously we talked about Jordan Addison, where he might be the number one rookie for 2023, right? Whether you think, Jackson Smith and Jigba long-term or whoever is long-term, he's got a great opportunity. Of these guys that have gone now, the rest of these rookies, Mingo, Jalen Hyatt, Rashee Rice, Marvin Mims, or maybe somebody who hasn't been drafted yet, who are you taking a stab on out of the rookies after, obviously you already got Jordan Addison yourself?
Yeah, there's two guys that I keep kind of finding on my best ball rosters, and I need to do a better job of diversifying out there. But one of them is the player you already mentioned, Marvin Mims. I think he's just such a good fit with Russell Wilson, who is a downfield thrower. Marvin Mims is a great downfield wide receiver. And I mean, the fact that the Broncos traded up to go get him, right? And Sean Payton doesn't have a lot of draft capital to work with in that Denver Broncos team, and they moved up to go get this guy. And it doesn't really sound like he's in love with a lot of the wide receiver weapons on that team. So I do like Marvin Mims there for best ball and for the future and like dynasty and stuff like that. But a guy, and I'm probably going to regret saying this out loud. I hope none of the other people are listening, but Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed is a guy that I really, really like for dynasty, for best ball. I think that he has himself. I know it's typically half PPR, but he has a real a realistic avenue to being a target hog on that Green Bay Packers offense, where he doesn't have to be the crazy downfield threat like a Christian Watson is and doing all the explosive stuff. But what he's going to do is maybe a lot more of that Amon-Ra St. Brown underneath crossing route type stuff that gets him some easy targets from Jordan Love and tries to get him a bit more comfortable. So that's another guy that team drafted him early. You can't ignore that. And the Packers have a really good track record drafting receivers in the second round. Devonte Adams, Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, Christian Watson, all these guys. So Jaden Reed joins a pretty good group.
Alfredo, great stuff as always. Thank you so much for joining us, and good luck in this best ball tournament. Can you let everybody know where to find you before we let you go?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at the Pretend GM, and then you can check out all of my work over at Football Guys. We've got a whole bunch of great dynasty and rookie content going for you guys this month, and we're going to be moving on to best ball pretty soon. So a lot of great things happening on the Football Guys YouTube channel.
Always is. Football Guys crush, man. I love the content out of you guys.
Thank you, buddy.
Me, Troy, the whole gang, Joey Wright, of course. Joey Wright. Actually, I think Sam Wagman and Joey Wright are going to be joining the channel right after the show. Right after this show on Front Yard Fantasy. Joey's always on it, but Sam Wagman's going to be joining. So it's a big football guys day here on Bettor Sports Network. Alfredo, thank you very much, buddy. While you were talking, your wide receiver, Jaden Reed, got sniped. I'm sorry about that, but
why do I say things?
Enjoy this next pick and the rest of your draft, buddy. Thank you for popping in with us.
All right, guys. Thank you for having me.
That's funny. That it can happen like that. And just like that, we have the Stack Master himself, the master of best ball, a guy whose articles I've read quite a few of, and I work into my own strategies. Mr. Josh Larkey of 33rd Team. What's up, my dude? How are you doing?
Good, doing well. What an intro. Wow. I feel like I have big shoes to fill after that. So
I had 2 more paragraphs written down, but I cut it short. They had me cut it short, but yeah, I wanted to do the full speech, but no, we had
producers were in your ear. Yeah,
they were in my ear. They were like, dude, please do not do the full Larky speech again. Okay. So no, but thank you, man. Cause this is, to get a guy like you in for this type of draft. I mean, it's a specialty of yours. So I'm not sure if you were listening earlier. We were talking to Matt Deutsch, the producer, about whether or not he should take Darnell Mooney where he did. Can we scroll this draft up just a little bit? He already took Justin Fields, who he has planted his flag pretty firmly on, and then he wasn't sure whether to take Darnell Mooney ahead of ADP. So I know you've done a lot of research on this. As far as reaching to complete a stack, at what point does the reaching kind of negate the benefits of the stack, just based on your experience?
Well, it kind of depends on where in the draft they go. So one thing I like to say is, like, once you hit like round 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, at a certain point, it really doesn't matter. Just get your guy, stack your quarterback, since essentially we're just trying to correlate. We're all throwing darts at the very end of our drafts. But early on with Mooney, I would have waited a few more rounds. Essentially, if you take Fields and then you're stacking with Mooney, we're saying we really like Fields. We think he's going to throw a lot of passing touchdowns. We think Mooney is going to get some of them. That could very well be true. They will be correlated. However, I think there's 2 things working against that. One is that Justin Fields is just a highly mobile quarterback. The way that he's going to score a lot of his fantasy points is on the ground. If Justin Fields was not mobile, he would be going in the 12th round of fantasy drafts, 13th round. The only reason he goes so high is because of his rushing upside. Do I think that he can connect with Mooney? Of course. I think the ADP, though, with Mooney reflects that he's at best the second pass game option behind DJ Moore. And I think there's also a chance he's the third behind Chase Claypool. He could even be 4th behind Cole Kmet. We have no idea what they're going to do this year with this new receiving group. So I would have waited on Mooney because you could have got him later. And I also think that reaching on a stack for a mobile quarterback is generally a losing proposition. We just see that year after year. These guys are generally very efficient passers, but they generally don't have very many passing yards or passing touchdowns due to volume.
That's right in line with my thoughts. Ambiguous situations, take the cheaper guy, right? So if you're going to reach, you better know that it's going to be either the first or second target on the team. So based on what you were kind of saying there, it sounds like you might be more willing to take mobile quarterbacks, quote unquote, naked without a stack than you are pocket passers. Is that generally how you roll, or
yeah, I'm still trying to stack. I am still trying to stack them over
Always
quarterbacks.
stack, yeah.
These guys do throw touchdowns. I'm just not as gung-ho about the stack. So I think a good example actually was in this draft. I took Garrett Wilson at pick 2. And Aaron Rodgers was on the board at pick 105. And I thought I could get him in the next round because there were several other quarterbacks still on the board, like Dak Prescott, who I ended up taking instead, like 2 rounds after ADP. But I thought, hey, I could probably get Rodgers later. I don't need to force it. I think Garrett Wilson will have a great season himself. Obviously, I want that Rodgers stack. But do I actually think that Rodgers is going to score significantly more points than a Dak Prescott? No. It felt weird to take Aaron Rodgers when Dak Prescott, who operates in a much faster-paced, high-scoring environment, was still on the board. Aaron Rodgers might be the slowest quarterback in NFL history when it comes to play calling. He's really, really good at football because he's really, really smart, and he gets to the line of scrimmage and he checks the defense. He takes his time, and when the clock hits 1, he snaps the ball. Year after year, he takes more time on the clock than any other quarterback. Dak Prescott operates very fast-paced offenses. The Cowboys are always top 5. The reason that I always say I don't care that they run a lot is because they simply play fast. So Dak Prescott, yes, the pass rate is terrible compared to what the Cowboys should be doing year after year, but it doesn't matter for fantasy. He's still throwing 650 times a season when you look at the Cowboys pass stats because they're always top 1, top 2, top 3 in passing overall in pace. And they operated the number 4 and number 1 scoring offenses over the past 2 seasons. Simply could not go with the stack when I knew that pass volume would be a concern with the Jets. And yes, I'm chasing touchdowns with the Jets, but also I was like, all right, I've already got Breece Hall as well. We already have some Jets correlation. I'm just going to take naked Dak Prescott here because he's 2 rounds after ADP. And it just feels like he looks fundamentally different from these other quarterbacks. So stacking, very important, but it's not the end all be all. I really like my team. I have no real stacks, but I have a ton of correlation throughout where we have 3 Seattle players, 2 Jets players, and that might be it. I thought there was one more. There'll probably be one more thing by the end of this draft.
I'll tell you, with Aaron Rodgers, you talk about his intelligence. I think that's what this S2 test is trying to figure out, if you can pull the Aaron Rodgers move. I don't think there's a quarterback in the history of this league that's done this one scenario more times than Rodgers. The defender goes off sides, he snaps the football at the perfect time, and then knows he has a free play and throws a touchdown pass. That's that cognitive ability that he has that I don't think anybody does that particular play more than Aaron Rodgers. So, but you're right, because of the way he operates and his intelligence and his knowledge of all those things, it slows the game down. Now I scrolled us back up to the top real quick. I want to talk about a couple of your picks here. Diggs, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, those kind of automatic. Although Breece Hall, you're not worried at all about the knee. You're feeling good about the timeline.
Yeah, he's actually been well ahead of schedule for all of his workouts. He's running at full speed already. Obviously, that's different from cutting, but it's May. He's running at full speed. I don't know what else we need at this point. This guy was already an upper percentile athlete, and it seems like he's slightly ahead of schedule. And that schedule already was going to put him ready within the first 2 to 3 weeks of the season. The way I see it is once Breece Hall is fully healthy, this is very easily the best running back in fantasy. Tied to Aaron Rodgers, who we know likes to check the ball down to running backs, who we know runs efficient scoring offenses. Breece Hall himself was just awesome playing with Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco last year. So I have very few concerns in terms of him getting up to speed. And I think once he's up to speed, I think you can make a case that like fully healthy Breece Hall would actually be the first running back off the board in fantasy. So you're getting like a pretty nice discount if you're taking him in the 3rd round, when all you're betting on is like, I just hope he plays within the first month, which I think he does.
And even as a Patriots fan, I'm just worried. I'm worried about the Jets, man, for the first time in a long time. That offensive line looking good. Finally got a quarterback, got all these weapons. Scary times. But yeah, Britt, take us out.
Yeah, Josh, great stuff. Great to talk to you. Great team. Let everybody at home know what you're working on and where to find you.
Sounds good. Before that, I will defend the stacking. I took Michael Gallup. We got a stack with Dak Prescott. We backdoored it. We did it. You can find
Mission
me
accomplished.
Mission accomplished. I couldn't be on stream and not sneak a stack in. So we finally had one fall into the lap. You can find me on Twitter at JLarkyTweets, and all my work can be found on the33rdteam.com. Andrew, Britt, thanks for having me.
Marky,
Thanks, Josh. Good luck.
We're doing a draft like this. Got to have you in. And I'm glad you got a stack done live for the kids, for the people at home. Let's go. Thanks for popping in, buddy. I appreciate you.
And we've also got something for everybody watching at home. We already know that you're a fan of Bettor Sports Network if you're watching us, but we've got a special offer for you, and you can get even more Bettor Sports Network content and have a newsletter emailed to you every single day. It's the only place to get our Bettor Bet, plus exclusive offers, program alerts, special events, and our top moments. You can register for free right now at bettersports.com.
Excellent. All right, we got our next guest on here, Sam Chutry from the FTN Network. Sam, how we doing today, buddy? How you feeling so far about your squad? You think you got a shot at this one?
Yeah, I'm feeling really good about this. I've been busting these best ball manias, and this is a pretty different lobby, I'd say. I don't think I've really had a draft quite like this one, but yeah, a lot of different values. I mean, a lot of guys that were in my queue. When you got a guy queued up, you just know he's not going to make it back to you, but that hasn't really been the case this draft. So yeah, I like it.
Getting your guys, huh? Give me an example of a guy where, because I do the same thing. I throw a lot of pipe dreams in the queue, and then I know they're going to get drafted, and when they do, I'm still disappointed. But what's an example of a guy that you had queued up that surprisingly made it all the way back to you?
Well, you could see that to kick off my draft after I took Josh Jacobs in the 3rd round, I waited quite a while for my second running back. I ended up getting A.J. Dillon at my RB2, and that sort of goes in hand with, I didn't expect all this wide receiver value to come to me. I got Brandon Ayuk and Tyler Lockett almost a full round after ADP, and even though I only had one running back at the time, I'm not going to forego the wide receiver value just because I feel like I'm pretty loaded at the position already. So I kept pushing the needle at running back, and then double dipped with A.J. Dillon, Rashad Penny at 119, 122, and I feel pretty good about those two guys giving me my RB2 slot, catapulting weeks there. So, yeah, I really like that start.
Yeah,
And somebody here that you've got that I really love is Kendre Miller. And I really want to talk about him. See, Coop and I, we've got this telepathy going on even through the stream. How do you feel about him? And with the Kamara situation, do you think that he could take over as the starter this season?
Yeah, so this isn't really a 0 RB start because I ended up taking Josh Jacobs as my RB1, but you can sort of build the same way as a 0 RB where you're just searching for points at the position when you go off and pump the RB2 like I did here. And if Kendre Miller, maybe he's irrelevant in the fantasy playoffs, but you got to get there first. And I think definitely the suspension that we're all expecting, I think Kendre Miller will be productive in that stretch, and he does have Jamal Williams to compete with, but as good as Jamal Williams' season was, he ran pure on touchdowns, and I like the talent of Kendre Miller, and I think depending on how long Kamara's suspension is, I think for the vast majority it'll be Miller's backfield, and even him I ended up getting after ADP, so that was another guy that I was really happy to fall to me.
You kind of executed the hero RB to a T here, where you got your early guy, and then you were able to fill out a guy like A.J. Dillon, who every time he scores a touchdown, he's going to be in your lineup, which he is the goal line back. Rashad Penny, who at any moment can break off a monster touchdown. We've seen it from him a bunch of times. And then you take your shot on Kendre Miller, an upside play later on. So maybe fill it out. Are you thinking you're coming up soon here, so I don't want to give anything away, but are you thinking fill it out with one more running back, one more tight end to wrap it up, another quarterback? What do you have your eye on here coming up to wrap this one up?
Yeah, so I got 2 running backs in my queue who I like both of them a lot. I see the 2 guys ahead of me already have 5 running backs. So yeah, it looks like one of my guys is gonna get here. So it's between Tyler Algier and Devin Singletary. And I think Singletary might have more standalone value, but I do like the upside of Algier if something happened sorry.
There you go. You're in. You get now. So now you have your choice of the 2. There you go, Algier.
And then if something happens to Bijan, we saw what Algier did down the stretch as the RB1 when he eventually got the job in Atlanta. So maybe he doesn't give me enough points while Bijan is healthy, but right now it's a swing for the fences. I like the 4 running backs that I have to give me enough points to go through the season. And then, swing for the fences. And Bryce Young was actually someone I had my eye on with the Carolina stack, but I do also have Pickett with George Pickens, so I'm going to go ahead and take my second quarterback. And that's one thing with I ended up going elite quarterback and elite tight end in this draft. A lot of times those drafts look pretty ugly because you're foregoing running backs and wide receiver. But in a format like best ball, you can completely punt off your tight end 2 and your QB 2 and just fill out the rest of your roster, sort of as I did here. I don't have my tight end 2 yet, but waited till the 15th round for my second quarterback, and I feel pretty good about Pickett behind Allen just to cover up the bye weeks.
It's crazy how tight these expert drafts can be, where all the guys you just mentioned, like in your queue, the guys you were looking at, they go just like that, right? Look at that. Singletary,
Yeah.
Bryce Young. It gets hot out here. So I'm loving it. I want to ask you before we let you go about a pick you made there, and you mentioned Bryce Young, Adam Thielen. He was released due to cap constraints. According to him, he had his pick of a few different places to go, landed with a team that gave him a 3-year deal, which was surprising to me. What do you think on Thielen? Do you think he's still a full-time player, or is that pick more of a chasing touchdowns type pick? What are your thoughts on Thielen? Because he's a guy I've always been a fan.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, if you look at the picks before and after Thielen, I mean, it was really just BPA pick right there. You mentioned about guys getting sniped. I really had my eyes on Zay Jones here. He fell about 2 rounds after ADP. So I was pretty bummed out about him going. And then as far as Thielen goes, yeah, like I said, I think I was eyeing some running backs too that all went in that round. And I figured I was set on punting quarterback and tight end for another couple rounds. And yeah, as far as the Carolina wide receiver room goes, I don't think there's a clear alpha between Chark, Mingo, and Thielen. And I do like Thielen. Last year was probably the worst of his career, but I do think he'll still be that safety valve. Unfortunately, a lot of his production has been through touchdowns, and I don't know how much scoring is going to come with Bryce Young in the Carolina offense in year 1, but I do think he'll be a good bet on volume, probably better in full PPR, but yeah, I don't mind him at that price.
Sam, it's great having you on, man. Good luck with the rest of your draft. Before we let you go, let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, all my content will be on FTN Fantasy or FTN Daily. A couple articles a week. We'll do some streams, and yeah.
Awesome, man. Thank you very much for joining us. Good luck filling this one out. I think you got a good shot with that build you got going, man. All right. And right at it, we have Brad Thomas coming in, joining us from NBC Sports Edge. You guys are crushing it over there, man. I love your social media accounts, especially. The updates that come through. There's a little. It's the information we need with a little spice to it.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah. And I know the guys behind those. So you guys do a great job, man. And thanks for popping in with us, buddy.
Absolutely. I can't believe I'm actually on the clock right now as
timing.
we're going. Yeah, this is crazy.
Yeah. What are you thinking?
Man, listen, I think I'm going to go with Matthew Stafford. I was between Stafford and Trey Lance here for my QB2, but I'm just so afraid of Brock Purdy coming back late in the season. Then it's just like, I mean, I have Patrick Mahomes, so ultimately, hopefully I don't have to rely on it. But with Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford, if Stafford has that 2021 season, then, I mean, pretty solid. I'm going to go with Stafford right here. Yeah.
I think not enough people are asking that question right now.
Right?
Not enough people are asking, what if he's okay? Like, what if he's Matt Stafford? Like, then it's a mind blower, because we've done this a bunch of times with older QBs older than Stafford.
Yep.
Like, what if he's just okay? And I think that the first day we see him actually throwing a football, that ADP is probably going to move, right?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
going to move.
I think there's huge upside with this team entirely. Like, everyone's written them off. Stafford's vying for a contract, so he's going to want to go out there and play well. That's why I wasn't upset about getting Cooper Kupp at 7 at all. Like, Matthew Stafford comes back, he's targeting Cooper Kupp. Like, if you look at that roster, it's Cooper Kupp and everyone else on that depth chart at wide receiver. So I just need a little bit of resurgence. And I was a little shocked how early Jalen Hurts went, because I was like, maybe I could just wait a little bit, go get Patrick Mahomes in the 3rd, but Jalen Hurts went in the 2nd round, so I snagged Patrick Mahomes pretty quick.
Now I got to ask you because you said it's Cooper Kupp and everyone else, and I know we still have a draft going on here. Everybody wants to win, but at the end of the day, this is also educational to help the fans, right? So now that you've gone in here, you've taken Matt Stafford. When you look over that group of everyone else, what name do you think is the best bet, right? So we're looking at guys like Ben Skowronek, Van Jefferson. They obviously have Tutu Atwell, the speedster. And then they took a guy that kind of interesting, Puka Nacua, a rookie, had a pretty good yards per route run. I think he was, I want to say Penn State. Correct me if I have that wrong, but not a lot of names that jump out at you. But if Stafford's going to be Stafford, you kind of made your bet here. You might want to pick somebody a little later on. So if you had to lean, let's do your pick first, and then we'll talk about.
Oh snap! I'm back on the clock. Okay,
yeah, this is moving quick.
My pick right here.
We'll do your pick, and then we'll jump back and talk about the rest of the Rams. And I would include Tyler Higbee in that group as well.
Yeah, I like Tyler Higbee a lot. Obviously, I'm not going to draft him. I'm not going to go probably 3 tight ends deep with Kincaid and and Kittle. But man, I think I want to go. This is tough. This is tough because I want to get. I'm afraid of my running back situation here. I didn't expect to have so many running back hoarders in this draft. Like I went really, really wide receiver heavy, and then I go Cam Akers. I'm happy with Cam Akers. Alexander Mattison, I was really stoked to get him, but then I was like, I mean, what if they don't move Dalvin Cook? Then I have Jerick McKinnon with Patrick Mahomes. Most of his touchdowns are going to be through the air. Those little short passing screens by the red zone. This is tough. It's always easy to build your queue, and then always very difficult to.
It really is.
Yeah.
Either the entire queue gets sniped on you, or there's too many people there. Right. That's
it's never in the middle.
Never. I didn't want to go too many rookie wide receivers, but I'm just going to trust my grade on Cedric Tillman. So I had Cedric Tillman as the best wide receiver out of the duo of wide receivers that got drafted out of Tennessee. And I mean, I get the speed aspect of Jalen Hyatt, but when you talk about a pure route runner, big hands, good catch radius, I can go with Tillman. It sucks that he plays for Cleveland because I don't expect him to be throwing the ball a lot unless Deshaun Watson gets out of that first year back slump that he had last year. But I mean, when we're this late in the draft, I could take my shots a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I'm interested in the Kevin Stefanski conversation. He said some things this offseason that I want to put it on a poster and put it on my wall, where he basically was like, you don't have to establish the run to throw the football. And I was like, did you see the guy that likes to run? What he said? Did everyone see? Right. So Britt, for you, if you're taking somebody, Amari Cooper's off the board, let's say he's gone. If you're going to take a stab on a Brown and assume that Watson does get back to a high level, which we've seen him play at high level on bad teams. Are you going Elijah Moore? Are you going David Njoku? Are you going Cedric Tillman? Who do you think could be Donovan Peoples-Jones? Even probably not Anthony Schwartz, but who do you think is in the? Who would you pick to have the second most targets on that team, Britt?
From a gut reaction, I would say Elijah Moore because he's such a great player and had such great draft capital. When he was on the field with New York, he put up amazing numbers. He just had issues with injury. And it kind of does worry me that he is such a great talent and yet failed to see the field last year. So I'm like, is there something else going on behind the scenes? So I think I would wait and take a stab on Cedric Tillman to kind of overtake DPJ. And I was a little surprised that DPJ went before Tillman here. Brad, what do you think about Elijah Moore? Am I just being crazy?
No, 100% is what I was thinking. So I'm sitting there watching Elijah Moore, and I'm just like, when there's a guy who has that much talent, but they're not seeing the field, there's generally a reason, right? So he gets a change of environment. I still think there's going to be whatever off the field issues, whatever he's doing in practice, still hindering him. I mean, if he blows up, great, but I don't want to take that chance as high as he went. Like he went fairly high. I think he went with the 10th round for a guy who doesn't touch the field, a guy who could very well like miss game after game after game. So, I mean, it was kind of funny. It's kind of funny looking at RotoBuzz's draft. I think that RotoBuzz did a very good job of knowing what he wanted to target because he went with Deshaun Watson, Amari Cooper, and Elijah Moore. he put a lot of faith in the Cleveland Browns. But yeah, I just don't trust Elijah Moore. I didn't even trust him on the Jets. So like, let's be for real.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing was, like, what I didn't like, I saw Elijah Moore complaining about targets after a 3-game win streak. If you're going to complain, at least wait till you lose a game, and then you say, right, and then you say, throw it to me, and we'll win more. But I will, and I'll also say this: when this first happened, I tweeted, Amari Cooper's the number 1. Who's going to be number 2? Elijah Moore, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Donovan Peoples-Jones, his uncle popped in to my Twitter to assure me that he was the guy. So I'm just, he's got some.
I feel like Donovan Peoples-Jones is going to be one of those players for the rest of his career where he pops off for 1 or 2 games a season, keeps that money going. I mean, he's going to be making the money, but he's never going to be like fantasy relevant.
Yeah, he'll have a big game enough to drain our fab, and then we'll have to drop him again later.
Exactly.
Well, Brad, thank you so much for coming on, joining us for this draft. We want to tell us where everyone can find your work, what you got going on coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys can find me on www.nbcsportsedge.com or on Twitter at Mr. Brad Thomas. Right now, we are in the thick of golf season. We have the PGA Championship that we're working on, but always during football season, I'm going to have my plays and my articles out for you guys. And for those who like college football, this football season, every single Saturday morning, an hour before kickoff, we will have our live betting Q&A on our YouTube channel.
Yes, let's
Can't
go.
wait.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brad. You're
Can't
the
wait.
man,
Thank you,
buddy.
guys.
Good luck with
See
the
ya.
rest of your draft.
Thank you. Take care.
Awesome, man.
And with that, we're bringing in Scott Angle. How are you, Scott?
Good. Thanks for having me. How are you?
So good. Great having you on. So where are you looking in this draft? Are you picking out of the 5 spot?
Yeah, I was at the 5 spot, and I just went with Travis Kelce because, especially in a best ball, you pretty much dominate the position all year long. Like I got Mike Gesicki later on because I really like his landing spot, but I could wait for much later until tight end. It's such a thin position, and you almost get top wide receiver production out of that position in any format. So to do it in the best ball makes a lot of sense to me.
I love that. Even as a tight end guy that I love, I'm a guy that spends a lot of time looking for the breakout tight ends. Even I know it's such a good feeling to have Travis Kelce and know, hey, I just need a guy that can catch a couple passes later on for bye weeks because he's just been so rock solid, man. So it is a good feeling. It's a nice warm blanket, that Travis Kelce pick. Some of the other picks here, I know you're taking a lot of rookie running back run here. What's your thought process with the going upside with the rookies later on versus taking maybe a stab on a Zeke or Leonard Fournette or somebody going the same range?
Well, those guys, those players are younger, and with Leonard Fournette and Zeke, you really don't know what their role is going to be necessarily. When I took some of these young running backs like Jahmyr Gibbs, I took him early. He's going to have a huge role, versatile for a good offense. Devon Chain is somebody who might be less reliable and dependable in a regular weekly fantasy football league, but I think he'll have some spike weeks. Then Rashawn Johnston involved in a committee there. It wasn't by design necessarily. It just happened this way. These were always the best running backs on the board. Tank Bigsby, I think, is a physical complement to Travis Etienne that's going to get his touchdowns. And, Israel Abanikanda, you never know with Breece Hall. He's coming off of a major injury, what kind of role he's going to have. So I had to make sure I had depth. It wasn't by design, but outside of Tony Pollard, I ended up with all rookie running backs. But, these guys coming fresh into the league. They don't have the wear on their tires, as the cliche goes. So there's potential upside in all of them, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to sell us, right, Britt, on Devin A-Chain?
Oh, not at all. I love A-Chain. But one of the picks that you took, Scott, later on that really intrigues me is that Israel Abanikanda pick. With that backfield, if Breece Hall does come back healthy, where do you see him sitting with Michael Carter, Bam Knight? Do you think he's going to move his way up and become that second guy, or is he going to be buried for a little while?
Well, he's my next to last pick, so I figured I'd take the crack. Carter's more of a scat back out of the backfield type. And Zonovan Knight, I felt, was desperate. Like we saw him run out of gas pretty quick. That's why the Jets drafted this kid, because I think they need a 1A to Breece Hall, some insurance, depending on his health, etc. So to get him in what I think I got him in like the 16th round or 17th round, I'll take the crack.
I'll tell you, things can change pretty quick. I mean, Alvin Kamara, when they drafted him, they had Mark Ingram and Adrian Peterson. They traded Peterson. We watched.
That's the thing in these best ball drafts. You can't go on waivers. So if Israel Abanikanda is starting in week 9 and he's still out there and nobody's getting any points or production from him, this is somebody later in the season that could be a deep flyer in yearly leagues where you say, okay, I'm glad I've drafted them in best ball late.
That's that you have to get them now if you want to. Now I'm noticing something on the board here that I got to ask you about. Our guy Josh Larkey, he just came on. He kind of faded the tight end position and then just went 4 tight ends to finish his draft. Bing, bang, boom, bada bing, with Gerald Everett, Dawson Knox, Tyler Conklin, Noah Fant. What are your feelings on a move like that? Is that something that you're ever attempting, or do you think that? I mean, I honestly very rarely see that. That's why I have to ask you your thoughts while that's sitting right in front of us. Look at that blue there.
Yeah, well, every analyst will have his own ways of approaching it. By my design, it's like at some point the tight ends became an afterthought to me because I ended up with Kelsey. But then I look, a lot of people love their drafts on draft day, but I wasn't crazy about how my wide receiver room ended up. But taking Kelsey's like drafting a wide receiver, so I have to look at it from that regard. DJ Moore was like my first wide receiver pick. If anything, I would like to have a stronger wide receiver set, but I couldn't pass up Jahmyr Gibbs when he was still sitting there in round 3. So, back to your original question, though, there's different ways to do it. I want to get upside, and from guys like Noah Fant, unfortunately, and obviously I'm a Seahawk fan, but I think he's a better real life player than a fantasy player.
I love that so much. Scott, thank you for joining us of the game day. Let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, thegameday.com, obviously, with my regular fantasy football and baseball coverage, my betting picks. Check out my NBA props and best bets every day throughout the playoffs. Also on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, 3 to 5 Eastern every Sunday on Rotoballer Radio and rotoballer.com. And also, I'm the official fantasy writer of the Seattle Seahawks website for the last 12 years. So make sure you check me out at Seahawks.com. You can see my in-depth spotlights on their new rookies.
Scott, you're an absolute legend. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Man. We really appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Well, here we go. We're going down the home stretch. We have one final guest, Nick Bretwish of Win Daily and the Better Golf Podcast. Nick, you're here to take us home. How you feeling, my man? How you feeling after this one?
Yeah, I'm excited. Thanks, Britt and Andrew, for having me. And it's awesome to go after Scott. Scott's actually the main reason I'm in the fantasy industry these days. He got me into Win Daily, I think 5 or 6 years ago, give or take. So shout out to Scott. But yeah, I'm excited. This is actually the first best ball draft I've done this year. As you mentioned, the Better Golf Podcast is kind of what consumes my life right now as I start to dive into NFL projections on now the schedule's out. So kind of a dual sport athlete right now, but we got the PGA Championship and a Millie Maker on DraftKings, so can't complain. It's a good week.
I love it, man. Hey, and thank you for taking time out of the busy golf schedule to jump in. Well, before we get into this draft, can I ask you, can you give me a ringer pick for this weekend for golf?
I was pretty heavy on Xander Schauffele. He's kind of chalky. A lot of people are. I got him at 20-1. But if you want a long shot that is yet to tee off or should be going off anytime, I really like the guy out of Denmark, Thorbjorn Olesen. I think he could probably still get him at like 600-1 to win. I don't think he could win it, but maybe if you can get a placement market wager on him, I think this course should fit him nicely.
Britt, you take over while I pop in here and place a little pop into my DraftKings, dude. Use promo code Fantasy Alarm. See if I can get in there before he tees off.
I love it. So Nick, which one is your team? I
It
guess
is Vice Golf 22.
Where
The golf
is
team,
that?
Britt.
Well, I can't read. Okay, I need my glasses, and it's very small.
We're at 2 hours.
We
We're
let
2
up
hours.
with Bijan.
We'll give you a break, Britt.
So Jake Ferguson here. That was your last pick. You just picked
Correct.
Before you came on. Do you think that Peyton Hendershot is going to eat into his targets, or do you think that he's going to fit in with that regular rookie tight end trope that it's going to take him a little while to develop?
Yeah, well, Schoonmaker, I think, is the big rookie coming in. Ferguson had a little bit of a role. I guess I was kind of just grasping at straws there for I'm very happy with getting Darren Waller as my main number one tight end, and then pairing Dulcich with Russell Wilson, who I know everybody thinks I reached on, but we could talk about that in a minute. Ferguson, I was just taking a vacant target share at a very, very productive spot at the Dallas tight end.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the thing with a guy like Schoonmaker, like it could have been way worse for Jake Ferguson. Had they taken a guy like Dalton Kincaid or Sam Laporta that are just very clearly pass catching only tight ends, then that would have probably been a bit of a death sentence, because now at the very least he's going to be just the inline guy. But
right.
I mean, I don't see why Ferguson can't fend off a guy like Schoonmaker. I mean, the guy only had 2 broken tackles his entire college career, so I don't think taking Jake Ferguson, especially in the last round, I don't think that's a crazy pick at all. So I do like that.
And I said Hendershot like a ding dong instead of Schoonmaker. Got my own team wrong. Now
this
is how we know that we're 2 hours into this podcast. But Nick, so you also took Van Jefferson, and we kind of talked a little bit about him. Do you see him coming back and really making an impact with the Rams team, or do you think that it's going to be the Cooper Kupp show?
No, it's obviously going to be, a 28 to 30% target share to Cooper Kupp, but there's a lot to go around. The Rams really use their wide receivers a lot in the red zone. Van Jefferson's kind of a boomer bust type of guy, which late in best ball drafts is kind of what I'm looking for, similar to when I took Donovan Peoples-Jones right after that. Van's always a guy that I really liked at Florida years ago. I started drafting him in dynasty drafts a long time ago. It hasn't really panned out. But I think now with no Allen Robinson there, and it obviously is going to go Cooper Kupp and a lot of tight end work. But I think Van Jefferson should have a lot of red zone targets this year. And again, it's a late pick. I'm just looking for guys that can catch 40, 50-yard touchdowns and kind of just slide their way into my best ball lineup for a couple of weeks each year.
One of my favorite clips from, I think it was last year, was from Van Jefferson, where they were playing the Cardinals, where Van Jefferson's father is the coach over there. And Van Jefferson catches just like you said, he pops off for one of those deep passes we know he's capable of, scores like a 70-yard touchdown, and they immediately pan over to Van Jefferson's dad, and he is screaming, "I told you, I told you." He's like, of course there's some pride, probably deep inside, but on his face there was quite a bit of anger from him. He clearly warned the rest of the team. So in best ball, Van Jefferson, absolutely the format for a guy like that. Looking through the rest of your team, which of these picks we've asked a lot of people when they got sniped and picks they didn't like. I want to ask you, which pick did you feel good about? Which one of these ones because every draft there's at least a couple of these, even in these sharp ones, where you can't click that button fast enough. So which one of these ones did you feel good about?
I really like Bijan. I know everybody talked about the offensive line, Art Smith, how many, expected touches we should get out of Bijan. That was a no-brainer for me. I've never really anticipated taking him at the 6th hole, so I did reach a little bit there, but I just wanted to solidify the running backs because I know I was very interested in Debo, DK Metcalf, Jerry Jeudy. I was always going to be about the Sean Payton, Joe Lombardi, Denver, hopefully resurgence on offense. But my favorite pick was Joe Mixon going in the 5th round in a 12-teamer. Like, what did Joe Mixon do wrong that people are just out? Like, I just want exposure to Cincinnati's offense. I obviously couldn't get Jamar Chase. I'm not a huge T. Higgins guy. Was a little bit interested in Irv Smith later on, but to get the guy that's going to get all the red zone touches for the Cincinnati Bengals offense with a great offensive line, give me Joe Mixon all day. But Alfredo did snipe me. Another Bengals running back from the past, Samaje Perine, everything he said about the knee injury with Javonte Williams. I actually had a similar knee injury, and it did take, I'm not an NFL player. I do not have access to that type of rehab and everything, but still, I wasn't right with the torn ACL, LCL, PCL for like 18 to 20 months. So I'm sure he's built differently than I am, and he's got better staff and everything, but I do not expect him to play pretty early this year.
Yeah, they talk about that being a tough one. Nick, we got to hit the road. Tell everybody real quick where you can find all your stuff before we wrap this puppy up.
Yeah, at Sticks Picks, STIXPICKS on Twitter, and at Better Golf Pod and Win Daily Sports. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thanks for having us, man. Thanks for coming on. Everybody, this has been a blast. Stay tuned after this show. We've got a full day of lineup coming up. We have the Front Yard Fantasy game show. You can participate on YouTube. Sam Wagman's joining them. Should be a blast. Britt, thank you so much for joining me, co-hosting this draft. We'll post the draft board on Twitter online for everyone to check out. But man, what a good crew. What a nice show, right?
It's been awesome. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for joining us.